one. Let's go. All right, so we got the upper beginner level. So, question number one: is he a world champion? So, what that means? So, on the left-hand side, we got a function: is world champion. So, regardless of the eventual resolution of the problem, can anyone tell me how many arguments our is world champion woman function receives? One, correct. What type of data that single argument is? It's an object, correct, guys. So we got an object with key value pairs. Name is world champion and woman. So we want to check whether that person is a world champion and is a woman. So both conditions, is world champion and is woman, should be satisfied. Okay? At some point, I would like to compare my code with your code, and that will hopefully help to learn something on top of my approach. Yeah? So, look, guys, we got our public function, is world champion woman, and then interestingly enough, we got two utility functions, two helpers. So the idea is to play with these functions. Yeah. So is world champion will tell us whether a given athlete is a world champion or not, and is woman will tell us whether a given athlete is woman or not. So in here we have to essentially invoke both methods. Is world champion, this is one method, and then we have is woman. This is not correct yet because we are actually invoking both methods, but we need to combine them. We need to combine them. So we want to find the athlete that is world champion and is woman. Can anyone tell me how the and operator looks like in JavaScript? Correct, two ampersands. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. I've seen people typing and. That's unfortunately not valid. This is Python syntax. In JavaScript, you type two ampersands. And how is the or operator, guys? How does it look like? Correct, two pipes, yeah, or two vertical lines. Technically speaking, two pipes, yeah. So yeah, because we're talking about matching both conditions, we want to find an athlete who is a world champion and is a woman. Is that correct? No. Correct, guys. Remember, a function is some sort of a black box that receives an input. Look at the is world champion. The is world champion method receives an input, the athlete, and it vomits, if you accept the expression, an output. Yeah? So the output is defined by the return statement. So back to programming culture. Who decides these things? So who tells you you need to write the word function, and then you need to write the word return, and then you need parentheses here and curly braces there and double ampersand? Which organization decides these things? That's correct. That's correct, my friend. It's TC39. And what's the name of the document they write in order to define these standards? Ah, ECMAScript, correct, guy. ECMAScript. That's the name of the document. Yeah, 700-page document. Remember, don't go to a YouTube interview with that document printed. Yeah, because you could be a really good developer, but you may not care about the environment. So, yeah, that document tells you how to code with JavaScript. According to that document, that's the right syntax. Anything, guys, from a styling point of view, you remember last Thursday on the board challenge, we talked about styling, yeah, on JavaScript. So, from a styling point of view, is there anything else missing? Semicolon. That's correct. Semicolon. Semicolon. Yep. Airbnb recommends the usage of semicolon. Will this work? Yeah. All right. Let's have a look. Will we get confetti time or not? Yes, we got confetti time. So, questions? No? Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, perfectly, Aaron. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Aha. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. That's very interesting, Aaron. Let's change the algorithm a bit. Let's change the algorithm a bit. So imagine that I, instead of calling the functions, what Aaron is suggesting is, can I type athlete dot is world champion and athlete, if I type it correctly, dot is woman? Will that work? Thoughts? So lowering things that will work. You have to get rid. That's very bold. That's the point. That's the point. So I like the way Lauren presented the what the problem is. Look, first things first. That code will work. So if I run it, I got confetti. So that's okay. But look at the elegance console. Is world champion is defined but never used. And likewise, is woman is defined but never used. The point is, if you got some methods dealing with the complexity of the problem, why the hell you want to repeat yourself? So that's completely pointless. It works, but that's overcomplicated. That's over because you are duplicating the code. You see, someone wrote that code and you are writing the same code again. So you are creating some utility functions for nothing, literally, because you are not using them. Of course, you could remove them and then easy peasy. But the thing is, if you got that code already in place, we should use it. We should use it. Also, from a readability point of view, I hope you agree with me. And even though at the beginning you may not necessarily agree, but long term you will, it's just a matter of time, you will agree with me that this code is more readable. Because in this particular case, these functions are, pretty simple, blah, blah, blah. But what happened if these functions were a bit more complicated, doing something and then doing something else, you see? So eventually, are we gonna write all this code again above on the is world champion woman? Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. So if you got some functions that you can call, you can invoke, you can reuse, then just take advantage of that. Yeah? So don't write the same code twice. Anything else? All right. So let me check your code and see if there is anything relevant, anything that we should discuss. So first of all, we got our friend Maxim. So the solution is very very nice. Actually, let me zoom the screen because otherwise, sometimes the editor is adding some break lines where there shouldn't be. So let me try to play in mobile mode, and hopefully the code will be a bit more readable. So if I play in mobile mode, hmm, uh, actually, let me refresh the page just in case. I want to see real break lines. I don't want to see break lines that are there just because my screen is small enough. I want to see real break lines because break lines are important sometimes. Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, Maxim, but you added that break line on purpose, right? No, you didn't. Oh, that's a bit weird. Oh, that's right, because everyone is adding the same break line. That's no, but that's a bit strange. Okay. Okay. Then I will ignore it. I will ignore it. Yeah. I was wondering, guys, if you didn't get my point, if Maxim manually added a break line here, right? But he said he didn't, right? So, yeah, I think it's as you said, it's just simpler to keep it in one line, as you did, even though because of whatever reason the editor is not reflecting that. It's a bit strange, right? It should be until the end of the line. I don't know why. But anyway, all good apart from that. Same for Max, same for Lauren, and then look at what Vicky did. You see, guys? So that's correct. She got the right answer. She got confetti. However, I'm not fully happy about that, Vicky, because you are ignoring. We are presenting you. Yeah, but that's a horrible answer, right? Don't say that in a job interview. Yeah, I was a comfortable. Yeah. So the thing is, they give you some tools, and so you should use them. Yeah? You should take advantage of these resources. Cool. Awesome. Any final thoughts about the first question, guys? Cool. All right. So then let me check the second one. That's a really good question. I love this question. So here, how many arguments this function receives? One. What type of data the argument is? Array. Okay. And what type of data this function returns? It returns as there is another array. Yeah. So guys, I tend to ask the same questions every time we start a problem, and the reason why, even though at some point you may be thinking, why this guy is asking the same silly questions again? If you are in a job interview, if you are dealing with a board challenge like the ones we present once a week, and you have to talk about this snippet, I think it's beneficial to talk about arguments, input, output, etc. Why? Because of two reasons. First of all, that's a way to prove that you start the building from the skeleton. So you are trying, first of all, to get the big picture. Okay, I got a function, the name of the function is capitalized, and it receives an argument, which is an array, and it returns another argument, which is another array. Yeah? So you give the feeling, you give the impression to the employer that you go step by step and you start from the basics. The other reason is because at some point it will take you 2 seconds to understand the input and the output of the function. You're gaining some time. Yeah? You're gaining some time. And while you tell the employee, yeah, this is a function with an argument, you are in parallel in the background thinking about the complexity of the algorithm. Yeah. So eventually the idea is to minimize the time that you are like, I don't know, maybe. You see, you are preparing, you are warming up a bit on this exercise. So yes, we got a function that with an array, and we receive another function with another array. So there are many different ways we can solve the problem. However, let me present you the most beautiful one under my point of view, of course. So we'll talk on the next week about a very, very powerful method called map. Map takes an array of data, whatever, cities, fruits, politicians, I don't care, yeah, an array of data, and it returns another array with the same size. So if the input has 4 elements, the output will have 4 elements too. But the main difference is that we can transform every single element of the array. So map will iterate over all the elements of the array, and for each element, CSS, it will return a new element, CSS in capitals. The next element, as an input, it will return it in capitals. You see? So it's capitalizing, it's converting to bit characters every single element of the array. So I'm going to pass an argument called list. I don't want to be very precise with the naming conventions because we're talking about random things. We are not talking about any particular domain like people, cities, countries, whatever. So that's a random list of stuff, right? And now please pay attention to the syntax, guys. So we got list and then dot map, and then look at the syntax, guys, because the syntax is very important. I'll write the syntax end to end so you can get the big picture, and then I will stop on the different elements. Item dot to uppercase. So we'll run a workshop to discuss all the particularities of map. But for the time being, That's how map looks like. You got a list of elements, and then with map means for every item, for each element on that list, I wanna transform it. So item will be the input, and then here you specify the output. The output is, instead of the item, I want to return the item to uppercase. That means in capital letters. So if the input is hello, an array of one string, the output will be hello, all in capitals. If the input is hello world, the output will be hello world. Yeah? So can anyone tell me, and we'll talk about that on the next week, of course, how many times JavaScript is stopping on line number 3? 3 times. Why 3 times? But how many items do we have in this particular example? 2. So why if we got 2 items, it stops 3 times? No, guys, it will stop 2 times. So it will stop here as many times as elements the array has. If the array has 2 elements, it will stop twice. Why? Because JavaScript will transform each item individually. Yeah? Next week, we'll add some breakpoints. So we will represent that scenario visually. I'll show you how to do that on the next week. But for now, that's the way it works. So let me see if I did something wrong. I don't think so. So let's try to evaluate that scenario. So if I run it, you see, I got confetti time. So, questions? Yes, 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 yes. Aha, aha. Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, I didn't want to spoil all the details of map because we are going to spend 30, 45 minutes just talking about it, right? But yeah, I mean, because you explicitly asked, so when using map, and that rule applies to any other JavaScript looping method, we'll talk about find this week, we'll talk about filter, we'll talk about for each, we'll talk about reduce. So, there are multiple methods operating with arrays. And actually, I told you, I think on the first day of the bootcamp, that or maybe the second, don't remember, that arrays are arguably the most powerful data structure in JavaScript. So with arrays, you can build super complex algorithms. So why is that? Because you got multiple methods. Map, find, filter, sum, every, for each. We'll talk about some of them, or the majority of them during the bootcamp. Yeah. So the idea is, on each item, you can. This is a syntax you need to get used to that. Yeah. So for each item, look at this is what we call an arrow function. So for each item, do something. What do we want to do? We want to transform the item to uppercase. Yeah. However, I think that was on Max, right? Max was well, cool. So Max was saying, "Hey, I've seen somewhere people doing things like that." Yeah. That's also valid. That's also valid. We'll talk about that a lot during the bootcamp. So this is what we call a shorthand. That's the shorter version of writing the same code. For each item, then return something else. Advantages of this syntax. Well, first of all, it's shorter. Yeah, you have to type less. So even though that's maybe subjective, but it's hopefully it's more readable. Yeah, I believe it's a bit more readable because there is less noise, less curly braces, less return statements. So it's just more readable. Disadvantages. When you use this is what we call, guys, a lambda expression, and that applies to many programming languages. I'm sure you heard that in somewhere else. Yeah. So when using a lambda expression like this one, this is really nice. However, it's very limited. It's not very powerful because you got an input and you got an output. What happens if before returning the output, I want to run something else. I want to transform. I want to, you know, run some lines of JavaScript. You cannot use that expression. That expression means you got an input and then you return an output. That's it. Nothing else, nothing more. With the extended version, you can do some stuff here. This is JavaScript, right? So I can create let my suffix equals exclamation mark. So then I can do something like that. Can anyone tell me if my input is hello and my output is wall? Can anyone tell me what the output of this algorithm will be? So hello world like that. Capitalize hello world. After this one, like that. An array. This is an array. H in the middle, H, and then E. Guys, I know. Yeah. I see. Yeah, that's correct. Guys, I know that sometimes my questions are completely stupid and out of context, but the thing is, I tend to do that when I'm doing a job interview with a candidate because sometimes I want to check two things. So I want to see how well the candidate explained. So sometimes I take what the candidate tells me literally, add a colon. All right, I add a colon in a weird place, right? Because that's a way to prove that the instruction wasn't accurate enough. But there is a second reason. Sometimes I like to check, from a soft skills perspective, I want to check the attitude of the candidate. Some candidates, some developers, they get very nervous. They get very excited in a negative way when things are not working as expected, and this is something that the employer can smell, right? So even if your instructions are precise, even if your instructions are fully accurate, if I start typing bullshit and you keep calm and you keep explaining, that's really good. However, if you say no, I didn't say that. I mean, not sure if you get my point, but eventually, you'll become a tech lead. And once you become a tech lead, you'll need a lot of patience because you'll have to explain things that for you will be silly, and you will struggle to understand why people struggle to understand few things, right? So it's very important to keep calm, to be quiet, to be polite, and this sort of things, right? But yeah, anyways, guys. So you got it. So we got hello and we got wall. Yeah. So Max, back to your question. You see, when using the long version of the arrow function, you get more power because you get more freedom to do whatever you want before you return the expression. Exactly. That's it. Cool. Anything else, guys? No. So what? Once again, we'll run a workshop to talk about map. We'll run multiple workshops about array elements. So don't worry if this is not fully clear. I just wanted to introduce map, and of course, we'll run a session to master it with multiple examples and some points on the board challenge, of course. All right, so let me check what you've done. So you see, for instance, Maxim, he's using map with the short version. It's just all good. Same for Max, same for Lauren, same for Vicky. Everyone did the same thing, which is nice. All good. I have no concerns about using the shortcut at all. Cool, guys. Let's do at least one more question. Um, Question number 5. Let me have a look to the remaining ones. I don't want to ruin the productivity of your day because I know it's a bit late already. Get user details, and then we got split movie titles, and then we got triple odd number. Actually, let me do the third and the fifth because I think these two questions are represent some sort of common use case scenarios. Let me start with the last one because we are here already. Triple odd number. So let's try to understand the example. So first of all, we got a function with one argument, which is number, which returns another number. Yeah, fair enough. If the number the function receives is even, then return it as it is. If, however, the number the function receives is odd, we are expected to triple it, to multiply it by 3, yeah, because of whatever reason. The algorithm has been partially created, but now the problem is it doesn't work. Yeah? That's a common use case scenario. You are working as a senior developer, and a junior one asks you, hey, I'm trying to write this algorithm because of whatever reason. However, it's not working as expected. Can you please help me to understand what the hell is going on? So can anyone see where the main problem is? That's correct, Lauren. Guys, look, if and then if and then something, then you get a bunch of things, even if you don't really understand what the hell is going on. I don't even care, guys, if I'm speaking Chinese on lines number 3 and 4. I don't care. The thing is, you got an if statement. Pay attention to the syntax. If some condition is satisfied, we'll talk next week, guys, or the week after about Boolean algebra, if else, and or we'll talk about all these things shortly. Yeah, but ignoring the implementation details. Here we're essentially using. Does anyone know the name of this operator? That's the modulus or the reminder operator. That's correct, Elena. So if you got 7 divided by 2, what will that return, guys? 1? 3.5. Yeah, that's correct. 3.5. Yeah. However, if we do 7 modulus 2, what will that return? 1. Why 1? Because that's the reminder. I mean, if you divide 7 by 2, the integer you got, the integer part is 3. Oh, sorry, I clicked somewhere. The integer is 3, yeah? And then the reminder, so the missing part to get 7 is 1, yeah? So in other words, 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. So until we get 7, there is a reminder of 1. Yeah? So that's the modulus or the reminder operator. I'm sure you all learned that in school, yeah, long time ago. Well, for some of you, not that long time ago. Anyway, so regardless of what this expression implies, as Lawrence said, remember every time you write an if-else, you have to surround the content with curly braces. It's just JavaScript syntax, guys. Don't ask me why. You just need to do that. Okay? And now the question is, do we need to also surround the else statement with curly braces? Yes or no, and why? Yes. So if you think yes, that means that this code is not going to work, right? So if I evaluate it, it won't work. Why optional? That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Let's pay attention to the rule, guys. If the if or the else statement have more than one instruction inside, more than one, I got 2, then the curly braces are necessary, are mandatory. Yeah. However, if the if statement or the else statement have a single instruction, else has a single instruction, then curly braces are optional. To prove my theory, that code should work. But now my question is, even though they are optional, guys, as a matter of styling, it is recommended to keep the curly braces all the time. It just simplifies your life. It just makes everything simpler. Whenever you got if else, always surround your content with curly braces. It makes your code easier to read, easier to understand. Any questions? No? All right, so let me check the code you wrote. Triple odd number. That's interesting. That's interesting because, uh, yeah, so look, Lauren, Max, and Maxim. I think you work as a team, right? Because you wrote literally the same code. So you see, what they've done is they have completely changed the style of the exercise, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Let me present you what they did in case you didn't get that. So when you have an if else, you can have if age is greater or equal to 18. Mind that you are trying to get tickets to a nightclub like Fabric, then return uh, yes, you can buy tickets, whatever. Yeah, and then you can type else, return, sorry, you are too young for that, whatever. Yeah, you see, you get the condition. If the age of the user is at least 18, then something else, then something else. Whenever you have to face this expression, there is a way to simplify it. The way to simplify it is with what we call the ternary operator. The ternary operator means you type return, then a given condition. Look at the syntax, guys. You have to get used to it. The question mark means then, if the condition is satisfied, return something. Else, look at the syntax, return something else. Yeah. So line number 4 is equivalent to line number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I hope you agree with me, line number 4 is simpler. So if you need to write a single instruction, if something do A, else do B, the ternary operator is your friend because it simplifies your code. So how will we fully transform lines number 6 to 10 into line number 4? What we will write here is if age is greater or equal to 18, the parentheses are optional. You can have them, you can remove them, that's up to you. So if age is greater than 18 or equal to 18, yes, you can buy tickets. Sorry guys, else what? So else, sorry, you are too young for that. Next week we'll talk about Boolean algebra, and we will present multiple examples using if else and the ternary operator. Yeah? But just FYI, because some of you wrote that code, you can see the differences between one style and the other. Also remember, guys, you remember this vertical ruler? Yeah, we explained last week how to add it to VS Code. So whenever you got that line, please move things a bit to make sure your line is short enough. How can we move things a bit? Look, after the question mark, you add a break line, you indent it, and the same thing after the colon. You see? If the age is at least 18, then display a message. Else, display a new message. Okay? So that's the way you can break the ternary operator into multiple lines. Any questions? So that's what essentially these guys wrote, you see? And that is literally perfect. If number is odd, then multiply by 3, else just return the number as it was. Vicky wrote the long version. Can anyone see any elegance issue on Vicky's code? The semicolon where af- after the number in return, in the if statement. That's correct. Vicky is missing the semicolon on line number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Any other elegance warning for Vicky? Extra curly bracket? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, that's a good point. That's a really, really, really good point. I don't think that's strictly speaking an elegance warning. I'm not sure. We should check Airbnb. Actually, let's do that, guys, because I'm honest. I don't know if Airbnb is opinionated about this. So you get the question, guys. So the question is: should the else statement be in a new line, or should the else statement be after the curly brace? I always write it after the curly brace, as you probably notice in my exercise. However, not sure if that's considered an anti-pattern or not. So let me check Airbnb JavaScript style guide. And let me try to find some resources about this problem. Yeah. Also, the reason why I'm checking with Airbnb is if in a job interview you are writing some code and you are not sure whether you are following the appropriate style, feel free to go to the internet and check on this guide. So can I find if else? Not sure. Yeah. Look. Fantastic, fantastic. If you are using multi-line blocks with if and else, look, that answers the problem, guys. Put else on the same line as your if block closing brace. You see? Bad. So what Vicky did is bad for Airbnb. You see? However, good is putting everything in the same line. So mystery solved. Apart from that one, there is another one. Can anyone see any other elegance warning for Vicky? The what? Sorry, indentation. Yes. What do you have a problem with the indentation? That's correct, Lauren. You see, Vicky, that curly brace is wrongly indented. It should be moved here to the left hand side. Yeah? I mean, guys, if I'm complaining about spaces, about break lines, and silly things, that's a good message, yeah, because that means that there is nothing more important to complain about. Yeah? But it's also important to remember these little details. Yeah? Cool. Did anyone else solve that question? No, I don't think so. So, anything else, guys? No. So, because we are running out of time, let me solve the last one. I think that's an important question. That's an important question. So, let's ignore the problem. Let me present you a different one. Imagine I got a user. Uh, let user equals first name Peter, and then I got last name Smith. Yeah, for instance. Imagine that I got a function get user name or get user first name. Yeah, I'm just playing around with some JavaScript. So I got my user and then I got the function. So can anyone tell me how can I complete the line? In between the curly braces? Yes, user is in between of the curly braces, Elena. That's the curly braces. Which brackets? These ones? Ah, you mean the parentheses? Come on, Elena, you're Spanish. You have the parentheses word in Spanish. You have no excuses. That's all right. Okay, wait a minute, Elena. Technically speaking, you don't have to because user. I mean, if this is a JavaScript file, you have access to the user object from inside of the function because all this code runs on the same file. Yeah. So this is publicly available. You don't have to pass it here. So to simplify things, let's just access it globally like this. And now what? Return. Hmm. Do you agree with Elena? Okay, and okay, I think Elena is right. But now I got a second question. What if I want to get not the first name, but the last name? Well, yes, I can create another function. Yeah, function called get user last name, and then I can return, following Elena's guidelines, I can return user dot last name. Yeah? And then it's all good, guys. It works. And what if I got also the age? If the user is lucky enough to be 21 years old, of course, I can create a new function called get user age, and then here I will return user.age. Yeah? I can do that. I can do that. That's fine. That will work. However, do you see the problem? What happens if the user has 45 properties? First name, age, address, city, country, whatever, income, I don't know. Yeah? Eventually, this is going to be exhausting. So, the question is, can I create a more generic method called function get user data or get user detail, whatever? So here I specify the property I want to access. So for instance, I want to call it, I want to call that function get user data first name. So whenever I do that, that should return Peter. If I call the method again, passing a different property called age, that should return, sorry guys, that should return 21. Okay? So now, can anyone tell me how can I dynamically decide whether I want to get the first name, the last name, the age, whatever? User dot of what? S, capital O, object.keys prop. Okay, that won't work, I'm afraid. We'll talk about what object.keys. Object.keys, guys, will return an array with the keys of the object. So if we pass, not the property, if we pass the user, that will return an array with first name and then last name and then age. Yeah? That's what object.keys does. Likewise, we got object.values that will return the values associated to each key. Peter, and then Smith, and then 21. Yeah? So that's the way object.keys and object.values work. However, that's not what we want here. I don't want to list all the keys. I don't want to list all the values. I want to get the value associated to a particular key. Yeah, I got the user here. And what do I do with the user? Yeah, yeah, but okay, right. I didn't want to do that, but because you are insisting on doing this, so I got the user somewhere else, so I want to pass it here, right? Just to try to imitate as much as possible the example you got here. So now, okay, that's what we got. So now here, what do we do? But we have to pass the user this time, right? User prop, and then what? User dot prop. Interesting. Wait a minute, Lauren. So can anyone tell me what user.prop will return? Yeah, what line number 3 will return? User.prop. The name of the key. So what value is that? Let's have a see. So that will return first name, Lauren? All right, let's add some points to the board challenge. So Lauren said they will return first name. Who else wants to get some points on this week challenge? dominated by the ladies so far. So was that Max? So Lauren Max said first name. Elena. No, too late, Lauren. I'm sorry. So Elena said it will return Peter. Guys, Maxim, Aaron, Rafa, and so on. Any clue? Vicky? You said Peter. All right. Anyone else? That's interesting. That's interesting. Sorry, Aaron. Sorry, Aaron. I cannot hear Aaron, I'm afraid. So Aaron said Peter as well. Thank you, mate. All right, that's interesting. That's interesting because you are all wrong. Massively, massively wrong. You've never been that wrong in your life. Hopefully. So the thing is, let me give you a hint about why you are so wrong. Imagine that I'm adding a new. So typing user.prop will be the same as typing user.Boris Johnson. Why? Because user.prop will try to find a property called prop. Do we have any property called prop? P-R-O-P? No. So what user.prop will return then? Undefined. Fantastic, Vicky. Fantastic. It will return undefined. Yeah? And what will user.prop will return if I type something weird? Correct, Maxim. Now it will return hello, but yes, because we have a property called prop. That's the point about the dot notation. JavaScript will, strictly speaking, try to find an attribute with that label. Yeah, but that's not what we want today. Yeah, we don't want to display hello or undefined. No. We want to access the value associated to its key. So, Lauren had an idea before. Can you please share that idea with your colleagues? That's very interesting. So Lauren is right. So that syntax, which is a bit weird, is a bit special. That's the way you can dynamically access a given property of the object. In other words, here you can pass first name, and that will return Peter. You can pass last name, and that will return Smith. You can pass age. Oh, sorry, guys. And age will return 21. What happens if I pass email? What will that return? That's correct, Maxim. That will return undefined because we don't have any email, yeah? So, in this particular case, we don't want to access first name, last name, age. We want to access whatever the prop is. We want to have a dynamic function. We want to be able to access any any values of the object dynamically. That's what we type user square bracket prop. And that should be it. So if I remove everything, oh, I did something wrong. I renamed the function. Sorry, guys. It's not get user data. It's get user details. Sorry, guys. Bad function name. That's my fault. So get user details. Yeah. So if I write again, I get confetti time. This is the third question on the objects module on JavaScript beginner. Question number 3 on objects on beginner training on JavaScript. Yeah, in case you want to practice. So any yeah. Actually, let me tell you something, guys. Starting from the last week, we've added another improvement on the platform. So guys, you know how to get access to the code you've written for the challenge. You know how to access this view. No. Yes, correct. So if you go to the challenge details page, let me zoom it out for readability purposes. So if you go to challenges, past challenges, you'll find this view, right? This is where you can see the overview of your results. You'll find a bunch of buttons on top. Look at the one that says check in detail analysis. So if you click on that button, you can compare your code against your colleagues, which is particularly beneficial if you are struggling to solve a problem. And even if you know how to solve a problem, I think this is quite interesting in order to find different coding accents, different coding styles. On top of that, last week we did a button, you see, play training module. So if you click on this button, you'll be redirected to the training module where that question is. So if you click here, then you can practice with that module. Yeah, you'll start from the beginning. So if you are just interested on a particular question, you have to skip blah blah blah. But at least that should give you a hint about where the hell that question is in the backlog. Any questions? No? Are you sure? Last call? Cool, fantastic. So I would like to leave it here, guys, because we've consumed most of the morning already. So yeah, I mean, let me know if you need any help. From my side, I'm gonna work on the issues that some of you had this morning. So let me apologize for the last time, and I'll keep you posted. There will be a new challenge on Friday about React. So make sure you start practicing with React. The sooner the better. And yeah, and let me know if you need anything. So yeah, Vicky. Yeah. For React spinners. No, I don't think we have any workshop for React spinners. But this is not has nothing to do with React. If you want to build a spinner, so if you search on Google CSS spinner, I'm sure. No, 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 no. Don't install any packets. Don't be lazy, Vicky. Just build it by yourself. So you just need to copy and paste some CSS. You see, it took me 10 seconds to go to Google and find some sexy examples about how to build spinners. So you'll work with the spinners, guys, as part of CodeFlix on task number 25, I think it is. Yeah, because at some point we would like to offer some feedback to the user while the results are loading. Yeah, but that's a separate story. So you'll find some examples on the internet. Maybe I don't know, Vicky. This is just me going to Google and typing CSS spinners. Right? That's the first result I found after 5 seconds of research. Cool. Anything else, guys? No? Cool. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. See you later. Bye, bye, bye.